Hello, welcome to the Ironers Podcast. My name's James.
My name is Daniel.
And my name's Yan.
In the last episode, we talked about our tutoring experiences, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so after we recorded the episode, we found that there was a question inside Yan's script that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
And I found that it was so interesting, so I asked him to talk about this episode, right?
Yeah.
So what was the question?
The question is that do you think it is necessary to build up or break down some kind of authority between you and your students? So the main theme here is the authority between we and our students, right?
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to the last episode, please go listen to that about tutoring before you listen to this one. So this one is a continuing the last episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think it is necessary to build up or break down some kind of authority between you and your student?
Yeah. I think it's necessary.
So let's start with you.
Okay.
What is your experience with this?
First thing first, I want to talk about most students I faced. They kind of scared me. So they just will follow everything I told them to do. So in the teacher's standpoint, it's kind of easy to control them or something, to ask them to maybe do their homework or to just step by step to act what I asked them to do.
So they're very they follow your words, right?
Yeah. But there's something comes to my mind is that I will feel that they're not thinking themselves. They're not they will not fight the point that they think is right.
They're passively learning and not actively.
Yeah,
right?
but I don't think that's a good that's a good thing in learning or education or any part of their life.
Too passive.
Yeah. So I would try to ask them, maybe try to change my way of teaching and ask them to ask more questions, or even I will press them to ask a certain question to me. Yeah, so that's how the circumstance I faced. Yeah, so how about you guys?
For me, it's kind of different from you.
Okay.
My problem is that I have to build up more authority between me and my students. Right? So because I struggle with trying to get people to accept me, and I think this thing is also prevalent in my tutoring. So I want the students to like me.
Yeah.
And so that is. As a teacher, you cannot expect your students to like you so very much, right?
Yeah, just
because
like
sometimes you have to push them to do their homework or to do their work.
Yeah.
And so I find that I struggle to push them to do their work, right? Or to maybe do the homework that I gave them. So I think I do need to build up some kind of authority, and I have to realize that I cannot completely be their friend. Yeah. And I have to find the balance between being a friend and being a teacher. So that is what I struggle with mostly.
Okay.
Actually, I haven't think of this question before. Because in my case, it's really not necessary to build all the authority between me and my student.
Okay. So just like last episode, Daniel's tutoring was about physics and chemistry.
Yes.
I guess maybe more specific subject, right?
Yes, I'm more like an advisor.
Yeah.
Yes, I just provide my thought.
And maybe somewhat like TAs or they will maybe ask you questions. They will help them solve the question.
Yes.
So you didn't find a struggle like us, like we did, right?
Yes, because I don't have to give my students some homework or ask him do some maybe tasks.
Sometimes not only homework, trying to get them to understand the article or to think of questions to ask me. Is something that I struggle with,
So how do you figure out if your students is really thinking or really dig into this question?
Because sometimes I will ask my student to explain the whole problem-solving process to me.
Okay.
So I can check whether is she fully understand these questions.
So there is some discussion before this episode started recording. So we're I kind of finding out that Daniel's students may be more active on learning.
Yes, my students really know what they want.
Yeah. That's quite different from my experience.
And so she chose to go to tutoring and not go into cram schools.
Yes.
Compared to her other classmates, right?
Yeah, because they find out that studying in cram school is not the best way. The cram school cannot find the
optimal way to teach her, right?
Yeah. I think this theme just different from person to person. Yeah, we have to find our own way to learn by ourselves.
Yeah, so let's talk about our learning process maybe a little bit. So did you go to cram school in high school or did you have a tutor?
Well, I never have a tutor before. So I went to cram school when I was a high school student.
Oh, okay.
I studied English and mathematics.
Okay.
Okay, I went to cram school of math and English, but I have tutoring experience when I was a student. But I learned Japanese from a tutor, so that's different.
Yeah. So I've never had a tutor, and I didn't go to cram school when I was high school. So I think I learned a lot of stuff by myself.
Yeah.
I have a habit of learning a lot of stuff by
very
myself.
active, yeah.
And then just find the key questions and ask the experts or teachers, like in that case. So that is the way I learn things. Yeah. So I think a lot of it has actually pushed on to like me being a tutor, right? So actually I've implemented a lot of my learning philosophy into tutoring. Yeah. So let's talk about the other question that you had. Okay.
So the other question is kind of related to this authority thing. Is the discipline of learning and teaching process.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a tutor or as a teaching, when teaching myself, I would ask my student to follow a certain kind of like discipline. I will ask him to review his like vocabularies each week or each class, and I'll test him. Or I will ask him to write a journal to practice English writing or something. So have you faced anything about discipline? It's no matter it's in your learning process or your teaching process.
Yeah, personally, I like to inspire discipline in themselves. Okay, so for me, I don't want to give too much discipline. I think I want them to learn how to self-discipline because that is the way going forward, right? Yeah. So one day, if I don't teach them anymore, they can still push themselves further, right?
Yes,
so that's what I think is the most important.
I think that's the highest level is actively learning to inspire yourself.
To have self-discipline.
Yeah.
And the way I do that is to inspire, like getting them to like learning English. So maybe like watching videos on YouTube or like watching articles on YouTube, and I find that is the most effective way to learn something is that you like something and then you want to learn more about it actively.
Like for me, I have struggled with discipline problem with myself learning process. So I think I'm not a person of self-discipline. So sometimes I will just fall back to my own schedule. If I'm planned, I want to learn something, I'll fall back on my schedule. So I've developed another strategy is that I will find partners to work together with me, just like this podcast. We like to practice English speaking. So we done a project to try to force ourselves to keep focusing on this, practicing these things and what we want to learn, and maybe make our skills better in this
I think for me, it's very important to lay out a deadline or like a goal that you want to achieve, and lay down the most basic rules, and so that I can follow it and learn stuff that way.
Yeah. How about you, Daniel?
Well, I very agree with James' point.
Yeah.
Yes, because in my tutoring process, what I care most is to cultivate the self-discipline of study. Yes.
But it's harder for you, right? Because like learning physics or math, like very few people like physics or like math actively,
so it's basically the boring process.
It's basically just getting through school and getting through tests, right?
So
for me, it's like learning English is like a lifetime thing. So,
I will try to teach my student how to think physics in our daily life. So sometimes I use some objects
models, right?
Models to demonstrate some physics. Yes.
We talked about that in the last episode. Be sure to check that out. So he uses like models like pencils and erasers, right? To simulate
the process.
The process of learning physics.
If you can see the physics in these objects, so you can have some interest in this.
I believe that point because
did it work though?
It works quite well.
It works quite well. Good.
Yeah, humans are animals of sensories, right? So you have to see or hear or just knowing what it is, then going to the more vague concept behind it.
It's the same as like giving kids like Lego to play with, or like we have those magnetic like building blocks that they can play with to learn about physics, right?
Somewhat, I will have a feeling that if I'm interested in, or there's a like a button on it in my mind that I push it down and I will be fully onto that thing, and I can do everything of it
Yeah, I think interest plays a big part in learning stuff. Even in university, like when we were learning electronics in the second year of university, we were struggling at that time. But then in the third year, then we found out that we could make like guitar effects pedals out of the electronics that we're learning in school, and suddenly it's not that complicated, and you want to actively learn how that works. Because you have a personal relation with this kind of subject.
So try to cultivate a kind of interest for a certain subject or a certain like domain you want to learn about is quite important.
That's what I think is the most crucial in tutoring also. So do you have any tutoring experience or other cool stories you want to share with us? Be sure to write to us on YouTube and follow us on Spotify and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.